Okay, so for today's focus notes, we're going to get our paper set up. Remember, our unit is still 6-1-1 ratios. And today is lesson number 5. And if you guys looked at Blackboard, you'll notice there's multiple parts to this lesson. This is lesson 5, day 1, which is parts of a graph. And we're also going to be graphing ratio relationships. So we need to get all of that on our paper so that we know what we're going to be learning today. And then we're going to go ahead and get started. So in order to successfully graph information or read graphs, we need to also make sure that we know different parts of a graph. So to start, we'll start with our axes. Going horizontal across the bottom, this is our x-axis. And then going up the side vertically is the, and I'm sure you can guess, y-axis. So when I talk about graphs, we have the x and the y. Now, when we look at the numbers on those lines, you'll see we have different values. Across the x-axis, or the bottom, we've counted by ones. So how we count is called the scale. Scale is numbers we count by. Okay, but if we look at our scale on the y-axis, we chose a different scale. We chose tens for the y-axis. You can use a different scale on the x and the y depending on the information we're putting on. The next thing I want to point out is a very, very important point. This point is at 0, 0. And it has a very special name that we call it, and it is called the origin. We'll be referencing that point frequently because we always start a graph from the origin. Whenever we're graphing a point, we start at the origin to figure out where it goes. And then you'll notice we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 different points. This is a point. More importantly, we would call it an ordered pair because it holds information in x, y form. Ordered pairs always go x, y. It's alphabetical. If you forget, x is before y in my alphabet. And that point is located at, and this is where we have to figure out what is the x value and what is the y value. It is located at the point 5, 50. My x value was 5, my y value was 50. So the ordered pair in XY form was 550. Then this graph is missing it, but generally we would have a label. We would have a label on my x and a label on my y-axis telling me what those numbers mean. Because for this graph in particular, I don't have any context. And sometimes, especially in science class, you'll also have a title at the top of your graph as well, telling you more information about it. We need to make sure that we understand all of these different parts of our graph so that we can be successful at graphing. So on the back of our notes today, we are going to actually go ahead and graph. So we have a grid for us, and we can kind of see they have, I know this is my x-axis because they told me this is the y, and down here I know I always have 0. Now, the first thing we need to do is we need to label our graph. The top box is always the x. The bottom box is always the y. If your table is going the other direction, x goes first, y goes second. So that tells me my time is going to go across the bottom, and I'm going to leave space for numbers, and I know it's in seconds. And then on the side, I'm going to have distance, and that's in feet. So I have my labels on my graph. I'm ready for step 2. Step 2, we need to scale our graph. And so we need to figure out what numbers I'm going to use. So I like to start by looking at the numbers I need to fit. So when I look at this information for my x-axis, I need to fit all the numbers 0 through 10. So I'm going to see if I can count by ones. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I have plenty of lines. I'm going to just count by ones. I always check first before I write so I don't have to erase. 9, 10. Perfect. Now let's look at my y-axis. This one's not going to be as easy because I see the biggest number is 43. So I have to get pretty high. If I count by ones, they're not going to fit. So then I keep thinking, okay, what are some easier things to skip count by? Well, what about 2s? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22. I don't have enough lines. So I'm going to go bigger than 2s. I'm going to go 10s. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Well, I don't need to get higher than 50, but if I do that, I haven't used my space very well. And that's something else we need to think about. If I would count by 10s and I only need up to 43, my graph's going to stop not even halfway. So that's not a very good number to count by either. So I'm going to erase that. And let's see if I can think of, so it's 2 is too small. 10 was too big. So I need to go somewhere in between. Why don't we try 5s? 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45. That gets me up to here. That's going to use my space a lot better. Now, I also know that if you choose to count by 4s, that's fine as well, but I'm going to stick with 5s just because it's a little bit easier to do, in my personal opinion. If you want to count by 4s, that's fine. But my graph is going to be 5, so I'm going to say 5, 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 35, 40, 45, and 50. So I don't need 50, but it's still okay to have it on there. And then we need to plot our points. So that's our step 3, is to plot points. Okay, so a point is the x and the y value that goes with. When I think about my x, I think of I run, and then for my y, I jump. Okay, so when I have the point 0, 3, I'm actually going to change my jump to the up because we're going to jump up. Y values go up. Run, jump. And then my person always starts over at 0. So for my first point, 0, 3, I'm going to run 0, jump 3. Now, I don't have a 3 on my graph, but I know 3 is between 0 and 5. It's a little closer to 5, so I'm going to put my point kind of estimated. Oh, wait, that's roughly 0, 3. My next point, 1, 7. So I'm going to run 1, jump 7. So my person's going to run 1, jump 7. I know 7's between 5 and 10. My next, run 2, jump 11. Run to 2, jump to 11. Run to 3, jump to 5. Run to 3, oop, and that's not 5, jump to 15. That's a nice, easy one to make sure we have in the right spot. Next, run to 4, jump to 19. My next point, run to 5, jump to 23, right about there. Remember, we have to estimate where these points go, and that's okay. And then my last one is run to 10. So I'm going to run all the way to 10. Woo. And then jump to 43. So there's 40, 43. Perfect. Then what I need you guys to do is I need you to take a ruler from the table. We do not freehand stuff, okay? So grab a ruler or a straight edge, it could be the edge of a book, whatever you choose. And I need you to draw a nice straight line connecting all of your points. And I'm going to see what I'm doing. Nope, that's not going to be right. So sadly, you guys, I'm going to have to freehand this. Maybe. Oh, here we go. We're going to draw a nice straight line through all of our points. There we go. And we do like to put a little arrow on both ends to show it's going to keep going. And there we have our first graph. Now, because this is a 2-day lesson, we are going to pause with the notes. We're not going to take any more notes today, and you guys are simply going to work on an assignment on IXL. You don't have any paper copy assignment today. You're just going to log into IXL, and you're going to complete IXL X 2, 3, and 4. Now, whatever you don't finish isn't homework. You need to work on it for the remainder of class, and then you'll have time tomorrow to continue working on these IXL assignments.